Chosen one. Pause. Yes, before you rush. Before you question. Before you scroll again, pause. Heaven has brought you here for a reason far greater than curiosity. This moment isn't random. You are standing in the stillness before the promise. In that sacred hush between almost and it is done. You've been running for so long, fighting storms that others didn't even see. Smiling through silent battles. Praying when you had no words left. Yet now, everything feels still, quiet, empty even. But listen carefully. This quiet is not punishment. It's preparation. There was once a chosen one named Era. She prayed endlessly for open doors. Every morning she'd ask, "Lord, why am I still here?" Friends moved forward. Opportunities appeared for others. But her life seemed paused. She didn't know that heaven was realigning her path. She didn't see that God was whispering, "Rest now, for soon you won't have time to catch your breath." You, too, are in that sacred pause. God hides his greatest workers in silence before revealing them in splendor. Think of a seed buried underground. Nothing looks alive. But inside, roots are forming. The unseen work is the most vital. You feel forgotten, but you are being fortified. The world calls this delay. Heaven calls it design. Every unanswered prayer is a puzzle piece being set in place. What looks like waiting is really weaving, the weaving of divine timing around your destiny. Breathe. Chosen one. The waiting room of heaven is not a cage, it's a cocoon. You are not being kept back, you are being kept safe. Every door that didn't open was mercy in disguise. Every silence was a shield. You were never behind schedule. You were right on heaven's clock. Sometimes, the greatest act of faith isn't moving forward, it's staying still. It's trusting when the map goes blank, when the heavens seem silent. The same God who whispered purpose into your bones has not forgotten his words. What he began in you will be completed. We find in the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. You've been walking through a valley where progress felt invisible, but soon you will soar. The pause is ending, and the renewal is coming. Your wings are not broken, they're being strengthened. You're not behind, you're being built for altitude. Remember this, heaven never wastes stillness. Every quiet morning you spent whispering, "I still believe," became a seed sown in faith. God gathered those whispers and turned them into a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of answered prayer. There is something divine about rest. It is the language of trust. When you rest, you declare, "God is working even when I am not." That's faith at its purest. So yes, chosen one, rest while you can, because soon the winds will shift. Soon you'll find yourself running with divine momentum, and everything you ever desired will chase after you. Let this image stay with you. You're standing at the edge of a calm ocean at dawn. The horizon looks still, but beneath the surface, unseen currents are rising. The tide is preparing to carry you forward. You may not see the wave yet, but it's coming. And it's carrying everything you've prayed for. Don't let the enemy make you restless in divine rest. Don't confuse silence with absence. Heaven's quiet rooms are where destinies are drafted. You are in the drafting room of God's greatness. If this message speaks to your spirit, take a moment to breathe and let gratitude rise. Then, when you're ready, show your alignment like. Share this message so another weary chosen one may find peace in their pause. And if your heart feels led, subscribe and stay connected. We rise stronger together in this journey of faith. Comment the number 233 below as a prophetic sign that you choose rest over restlessness, that you trust God's timing more than your own. Your stillness is holy. Your pause has purpose. Everything you want is already forming in heaven's unseen places, waiting for the perfect second to unfold before your eyes. Rest while you can. Chosen one. The promise is nearer than you think. Chosen one. Don't underestimate what's happening in the silence around you. The angels are aligning what once felt scattered. Heaven's rhythm is synchronizing your steps with purpose. This quiet season is your spiritual rehearsal. The stage lights are about to turn on, and your moment of unveiling is closer than breath. So lift your head. Exhale the weight of worry. Whisper to your soul, it's all unfolding perfectly. And as you do, let peace settle over you like morning light, steady, gentle, and certain. There are victories. Chosen one, that heaven records, though no one on earth ever applauds them. You have fought in silence, endured in secret, and conquered battles that left no visible scars but reshaped your soul forever. These were the hidden battles, the silent victories where God trained your spirit for greatness away from the crowd. There was a night you cried without sound, pressing your face into the pillow so no one would hear. That was not weakness, that was worship. Every tear carried a message your words could not express. The Father heard them all. While the world slept, He was taking note. He was saying, I see you. Keep standing. Keep believing. End of set. Think of your life like a soldier's training ground. The barracks are empty. The field, quiet. Boot deep inside. Strength is being built. What felt like loneliness was your battlefield. What felt like isolation was heaven's classroom. You were learning to trust what you couldn't trace, to hold faith when nothing made sense. Sometimes God hides His greatest warriors in the shadows because the light of early recognition would blind them too soon. The delay wasn't rejection, it was refinement. You learned endurance, patience, the art of peace under pressure. Every unanswered moment was a divine weightlifting session for your faith. There's a story told of a man named Elior, a chosen one who worked quietly in a small workshop. Day after day, he crafted pieces of furniture that few noticed. But one day, a royal messenger arrived. The king had seen one of his tables in a distant village and wanted Elior to design the throne itself. Elior didn't know that all along. While he was carving in obscurity, heaven was crafting his reputation. The unseen years prepared his hands for a royal purpose. So too with you. While others chase applause, you have been building substance. God trusts those who can be faithful, unseen. The world rewards the visible, heaven crowns the consistent. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 6, He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, the justice of your cause like the noonday sun. That promise belongs to you. The dawn comes after darkness. Every hidden act of obedience, every private surrender, every time you chose forgiveness over revenge, it all accumulates like unseen light behind the clouds. Soon, the sky will break open, and the glory that was hidden will blaze. Imagine an archer drawing back his bow. The arrow must first be pulled backward before it can be released forward. The tension, the draw, the waiting, it all builds the force for the launch. That's what these years have been for you. The pullback of delay has only loaded your destiny with more precision, more reach, more power. The unseen victories matter more than visible ones because they prove the purity of your motive. You didn't praise God for an audience, you praised Him in the shadows. You didn't trust Him for applause, you trusted Him because you knew His voice. That is rare. That is holy. There were days when temptation whispered, "Give up," but you stood still. There were moments when compromise looked easier, but you chose integrity instead. Those are victories written in invisible ink in heaven's records. You may not have a medal, but you have a mark, a divine seal that says, "Tested and found faithful." When you look back, you'll see that the pain wasn't random, it was the forge. Gold is refined in fire, diamonds are shaped under pressure. God was not punishing you, He was producing something eternal in you. And now, as you step out of that hidden season, carry this awareness. The same God who walked with you in the shadows will walk beside you in the spotlight. Stay humble. Stay anchored. Stay kind. What you learned in secret will sustain you in public. Let the world see your glow and wonder where it came from, but you'll know it was born in darkness. You'll know it was the midnight prayers, the quiet forgiveness, the unrecorded acts of love. Those were the real victories. Those were the moments that built the unshakable foundation for what's coming next. Your hidden battles were not wasted. They were the birthplace of your authority. And soon, heaven will make sure the world sees what it already knew. You were winning all along. And when the light finally reveals you, it won't just show your face, it will show your faith. Refined and radiant, carved by heaven's own hand, you are proof that endurance births glory. The quiet ones rise last, but they rise tallest. Your hidden story is about to echo through eternity. You have wondered if heaven forgot your name. The silence stretched so long that even your prayers began to echo back empty. But listen, God's silence has never been absence. It has always been strategy. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. There was a young woman named Sarah. She waited years for a promise to unfold, a calling she could feel but couldn't see. Every door closed. Every opportunity slipped away. And yet, one night, as she sat under the dim light of her small room, she felt a still, small whisper inside her heart. "I never left. I was just building what you couldn't yet hold." That whisper carried her through. And months later, everything aligned in one divine week. What once looked like delay suddenly made sense. It had all been preparation. So it is with you. Heaven has not ignored you. Heaven has been perfecting the stage for your arrival. There are blessings too heavy for premature hands, promises too sacred for hurried hearts. You were never denied. You were being refined. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 29, verse 11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." Those words are not ancient history. They are present reality. They pulse through your bloodstream even now. Every detour, every closed door, Every waiting night has been wrapped inside that single divine assurance. God knows the plan. Think of a painter at work. Up close, the strokes look chaotic, messy, random. But step back and suddenly, the picture takes shape. That's your life. Chosen one. The brush strokes of pain, patience, loss, and growth are forming something beautiful. Something that only distance will reveal. Sometimes heaven withholds answers, not to confuse you, but to train your discernment. In silence, faith sharpens its ears. In delay, purpose finds its depth. It's not the loud seasons that define you, it's the quiet ones where you choose to believe without evidence. You are not forgotten because divine memory does not fade. The same God who counted your tears will multiply your harvest. What feels like the end of a chapter is only the turning of the page. Soon, the story will make sense. Imagine this. You're walking through a forest at night. You can only see what your lantern allows. But beyond that small glow, there are angels moving trees, clearing paths, setting light posts for the next turn. You don't see them, but they're there. That's divine orchestration. That's what's happening right now in your story. The feeling of being unseen is sacred. It's where humility grows, where self meets surrender. In that surrender, heaven finds vessels fit for power. God doesn't forget his chosen ones. He prepares them in silence, so their voices carry authority when the time comes. There is something about this season that heaven won't let you rush. Maybe you've compared yourself, questioned your pace, or blamed yourself for delays. But listen, you are right on time. Divine timing doesn't bow to human calendars. Your promise is not late, it's precise. Right here, right now, take a deep breath. The same God who spoke light into darkness is speaking direction into your uncertainty. The silence will soon break, not with thunder, but with clarity. Now, as a prophetic act of alignment, write in the comments, I am seen. Let those 3 words echo beyond the screen. When you declare them, you're not just typing letters, you're agreeing with heaven's truth. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. Every unseen act of faith has been noticed by God, and its reward is already forming. Carry this knowing, what you have lost, God will return in ways you could never imagine. What you thought was gone was merely hidden for protection. Your name is written on the palms of the Almighty, etched, not penciled. Unerasable. The silence is ending. The spotlight of purpose is about to find you. When it does, it will not surprise heaven, it will fulfill its plan. And when your moment arrives, you'll realize it was never about being remembered by people but recognized by heaven. Divine remembrance carries rewards no earthly applause could ever grant. The waiting taught you to discern whispers, not noise, to follow peace instead of pressure. That's what makes you unshakable now. Wisdom was born from what once felt like wandering. Every silence has a sound when heaven is near. Listen closely. The stillness around you hums with movement. Angels are aligning moments. And your name is already being spoken in rooms of favor. You have called it waiting, but heaven calls it stretching. The season you're in isn't punishment, it's preparation. The stretching season is where faith grows beyond feelings, and trust is tested beyond logic. It's uncomfortable, yes, but so is transformation. A potter never places unformed clay in the fire. First, He wets it, presses it, and stretches it into shape. Only when the vessel is ready does the heat come. You've been through that stretching, molded by divine hands that know exactly how much pressure you can bear. Each disappointment, each delay, each unanswered question has shaped your inner frame to hold the glory that's on its way. There's a story told of a man named Cale, a quiet soul who dreamed of opening a center for lost youth. For years, every plan fell apart. The finances failed, partnerskap and hope felt thin as air. But through every failure, Cale kept praying. God, teach me to see what you see. Years later, when the doors finally opened, Cale realized something profound. The delay had matured his compassion. The very setbacks that frustrated him had given him the wisdom to guide broken hearts. Without the stretch, he wouldn't have had the strength. So it is with you. Every time you've asked, "Why is it taking so long?" heaven has whispered, "Because what I'm giving you must last." I ring, quick blessings fade, shallow roots snap. But what God is preparing in you must endure storms. You are not being denied, you are being deepened. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. I ring. Those words hold more than comfort. They hold instruction. Being still doesn't mean doing nothing. It means trusting without striving, resting while remaining ready. When you stop fighting battles that belong to God, your spirit finds peace in His timing. Stretching seasons are sacred laboratories. They reveal the elasticity of faith. You learn that patience isn't passive, it's spiritual posture. Waiting becomes worship when you stop counting minutes and start counting miracles. Sometimes God stretches your timeline so He can expand your territory. What feels like delay is often divine pacing. He's aligning people, places, and provisions in the background. He's ensuring that when you step into the promise, nothing will collapse beneath you. Picture an eagle before flight. It spends hours stretching its wings, feeling the air, reading the wind. That motion looks repetitive, but it's preparation for the moment the wind shifts. The eagle doesn't rush, it senses when the current is right. So must you. Don't fight the still air. Wait for the wind that carries you. This stretch is also spiritual resistance training. Every not yet builds your endurance. Every wait strengthens the muscle of faith. You are learning to trust what you cannot touch. That's the kind of trust that moves mountains. Remember how Joseph sat in prison before stepping into Pharaoh's palace? Those years of obscurity taught him to manage power with humility. Moses spent decades in the wilderness before returning as a leader. David learned to fight lions and bears before he faced Goliath. The stretching season always comes before elevation. It's heaven's way of ensuring that when promotion comes, pride doesn't follow. In your stretch, you might feel like you're losing things, relationships, routines, even parts of yourself. But in truth, you're shedding what can't survive at your next level. Just as a snake must outgrow its skin, you are outgrowing your old fears, your old pace, your old self-image. The most beautiful part, God doesn't stretch what He won't fill. Empty spaces are invitations for divine fullness. The more He stretches you, the greater the capacity for His glory. There will come a day soon when you'll look back and thank God for the pauses, for the unanswered prayers, for the moments you almost gave up. you'll see that the stretching didn't break you, it built you. It made you flexible enough to carry the weight of your calling without snapping under pressure. Even now, heaven watches your faith stretch and strengthen every time you say, "I still trust you." It echoes like worship in celestial halls. Angels take note when a chosen one keeps believing in the dark. So, breathe. Let the stretch happen. Feel it. But don't resist it. The discomfort you feel is divine evidence that growth is taking place. The horizon is pulling you forward. And soon, your heart will understand what your patience already knows. This was never a delay. It was design. You are being stretched. Not stranded, expanded. Not exhausted. This is how heaven prepares vessels fit for overflow. Endure it. Greatness is taking shape within you. You've called it delay, but heaven calls it a setup. What looked like doors closing were actually divine hands rearranging your path so that when the moment came, everything would align perfectly. You didn't lose time, you were being synchronized with destiny's clock. There's a rhythm in the way God works. It's never rushed, never late. He allows pauses not to punish, but to position. The waiting isn't wasted. It's the bridge between prayer and promise. You've been walking that bridge step by step, day by day, learning to trust the invisible structure beneath your feet. There's a story about a man named Eno who planted a vineyard in rocky soil. Every season, he watered faithfully, but saw nothing but weeds. The villagers mocked him, saying he'd chosen the wrong land. But Eno kept working, whispering, "The roots are learning before the fruits are showing." One morning, after years of persistence, his vines exploded with fruit, the sweetest in the region. What no one knew was that beneath the ground, his roots had gone deeper than any others. The waiting had prepared his harvest. That's what's happening in your life. You've been rooting deeply in faith while the world saw nothing, but heaven saw it all. The ground that resisted you will soon reward you. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Every closed door, every reroute, every unanswered prayer, it's all been the Lord establishing your steps. What you called detour was direction. What you called failure was formation. Think of divine delay like the rising of bread. You mix the ingredients. You wait. And at first, nothing seems to happen. But inside that still dough, something invisible is taking place. Air expanding. Yeast working. Life forming. If you rush the process, the bread collapses. But if you trust the waiting, it becomes nourishment. God is letting your blessings rise, not burn. Soon you'll understand why certain things had to take longer. When the timing clicks into place, you'll whisper, "Now I see." The people who left, the opportunities that vanished, the prayers that seemed unanswered, they were all redirections towards something bigger, something you couldn't have planned, even if you tried. And when that realization comes, peace will settle over you like gentle rain. You'll see that the season of delay was actually a season of alignment. You weren't forgotten. You were being fitted. Now, as you receive this truth, pause for a heartbeat. If this message speaks to your spirit, let it not end here. Let it ripple. Click like as an act of gratitude. A small flame joining others to keep this altar of encouragement burning. Share it so that another soul wandering through their waiting room can find the same peace you've found. Subscribe to stay connected to this flow of faith. It's how we walk this divine journey together, one heartbeat at a time. And if your heart feels moved beyond words, consider donating not out of duty, but like a gardener watering the very soil that once fed his own roots. Your gift, no matter the size, is a seed that becomes shade for someone else tomorrow. It's not payment, it's partnership. It's how light multiplies without losing its glow. When you give, imagine this: a lighthouse standing in a storm. Its flame steady because unseen hands keep fueling it. That's what your generosity does. It keeps the light burning for others still lost at sea. If you cannot give now, let your prayer be your donation. Your presence, your partnership, your faith, your offering. You already belong to this house of light. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a sanctuary for the chosen ones. A gathering place for those walking through divine delay and learning to rest in purpose. Every click, every share, every gentle act of giving is a ripple that reaches further than you imagine. Soon, you will witness it, the setup turning into a breakthrough. The very things that resisted you will bow to the rhythm of divine timing. The vineyard you've been tending will burst into harvest. And when that day comes, you'll know it was worth every moment of waiting. So, smile, rest, keep your faith steady and your hands open. The one who led you into the delay is leading you out. Stronger, wiser, deeper. The setup is complete. The next scene begins. And when it begins, it won't arrive with noise, but with knowing. You'll simply awaken one morning and feel at peace. Fulfillment, purpose, all unfolding quietly, beautifully, just as heaven promised. While you rested, heaven worked. While you wondered if anything was moving, foundations were being laid in the unseen realm. This is heaven's construction zone, where promises are built piece by piece, with blueprints only God can read. You thought things were standing still, but no. The silence you felt was actually the hum of heavenly machinery. Angels have been at work, setting pillars of favor and beams of destiny into place. Every weight you endured was another brick in the structure of your promise. There's a story about a woman named Leora. She had prayed for years for stability, a home, a new chapter, a place to belong. But the more she prayed, the more her plans fell apart. One night, weary and tear-streaked, she heard a whisper within her heart, "Do you trust me to build better?" She didn't understand it then, but within months, doors opened effortlessly. She received what she hadn't even known to ask for: a home, more beautiful than her prayers could describe. That's how heaven builds, silently, steadily, perfectly. The writings of David in the Psalms remind us. Chapter 127, verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Oh, that's what this season is teaching you. Chosen one. When heaven is constructing, human hands can rest. You're not lazy for slowing down, you're wise for staying still. God doesn't need your worry, He needs your trust. Think of a city being built at night. The workers wear lanterns, the scaffolds creak, and somewhere in the darkness, the shape of something magnificent begins to rise. When the sun finally appears, the world gasps. When did this happen? That's how your breakthrough will arrive. Quietly, completely, Suddenly, while you sleep, heaven aligns resources. While you wonder how, God whispers, "Watch me." Every divine plan has a schedule. Every promise, a foundation. Every miracle, a structure. You're not waiting for something random, you're waiting for something ready. You see, sometimes the construction zone feels chaotic before it feels complete. God clears old ground before he raises new walls. Some people had to leave your life because their energy didn't fit the architecture of your next season. Don't mourn demolition. It was necessary for destiny. Have you ever seen an artist carve marble? It looks violent, chips flying, dust rising, noise echoing, but within every strike lies intention. The sculptor sees the final form long before anyone else can. That's what God is doing with you. Every crack in your life is a carving toward beauty. You've been telling yourself, "I'm not moving." But in truth, the foundation is, it's settling, stabilizing, strengthening. Heaven builds to last. God refuses to give you blessings that your spirit isn't ready to hold. So he constructs not only what's around you, but also what's within you. Imagine your life as a cathedral under divine renovation. Scaffolds rise around your faith. Angels polish the stained glass of your perspective. And every prayer you've ever whispered becomes a beam of light through the windows. You are not falling apart. You are being rebuilt in the image of endurance. The Holy Spirit doesn't hurry. Heaven's pace is perfection, and that perfection demands patience. The miracle is not just what's being built, it's who you're becoming while you wait. One day soon, you'll wake up and the scenery of your life will look different. Opportunities that once ignored you will call your name. Doors that were bolted shut will open like automatic gates. And you'll realize it didn't happen suddenly. It happened silently. So, while heaven continues its construction, keep your peace. Let gratitude be your background music. Each day, say, "God, I trust the process," even when the blueprint is invisible. Now, as a symbolic act of agreement, I invite you to write this number in the comments: 7,777, not as superstition, but as declaration. 4 sevens, a sign of divine completion, of heaven's perfect work multiplied in your life. When you type it, you're saying, "I trust that what's being built for me is worth the wait." And let it be your statement of rest, your faith that the unseen is active, your reminder that God finishes what he starts. The cranes of heaven are still moving. The materials are divine. The timing is flawless. Keep your hands lifted and your heart surrendered. Soon the covers will fall away. The dust will settle. And what's been under construction will finally stand tall, a masterpiece called you. And when the veil lifts, you'll see it, the masterpiece complete, radiant under heaven's light. Every brick of faith, every prayer, now standing firm as proof of divine design. Closed doors can wound your confidence. They make you question your worth, your timing, even your calling. You stand before what looks like opportunity, knock with all your strength, and hear nothing in return. But heaven is not silent to mock you, it's silent to redirect you. There was a chosen one named Rian. He applied for a position that seemed perfect, prayed with faith, prepared with excellence, and yet the answer came back, denied. The sting of rejection made him question everything. But months later, Rian learned that the company had collapsed. Its name ruined. Its workers struggling. The door that closed was not rejection, it was rescue. What felt like loss had actually been protection in disguise. So many times, God's no is mercy wearing mystery. You may not understand it immediately, but one day you will look back and whisper, "Thank you for closing that door." Heaven speaks clearly through the words in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 8. "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name." This verse doesn't only promise access, it promises timing. Notice how God doesn't tell you to break down the door. He opens it himself. When your heart is ready to walk through, that's the rhythm of divine guidance. The door opens at the intersection of obedience and maturity. You've probably tried to force things before relationships, jobs, dreams, and found yourself drained. That exhaustion wasn't from lack of effort, it was from walking against heaven's current. You can't pry open what's divinely sealed, and you can't close what heaven has decreed open. Imagine a river flowing through rocks. When the path is blocked, the water doesn't panic. It shifts direction, carving new routes, shaping new valleys. You are that river. Closed doors aren't the end, they are the redirections that create new landscapes. The world often teaches that persistence means pushing harder, but divine wisdom teaches that persistence means trusting deeper. Faith isn't just knocking on doors, it's knowing when to step back and say, "God, if not this, then better." And sometimes, God will let a door shut right before your eyes, just to prove that His hand, not your hustle, governs your destiny. When you can thank Him even for the closed door, you've reached the threshold of maturity. Think about how Jesus moved through His mission, never rushing, never forcing. When people demanded miracles before their time, He said, "My hour has not yet come." He understood timing, and that understanding preserved His strength. You are called to that same wisdom. Closed doors don't mean the absence of destiny, they mean divine redirection toward the right assignment. You might not see it yet, but your spirit already knows somewhere deep inside. Peace always replaces pain after a divine no. Let this sink in. Rejection is not subtraction, it's selection. Heaven removes what cannot carry the next version of you. Some opportunities are too small for your future self. Some rooms would shrink what God is expanding within you. When the door stays locked, it's because you've outgrown the space behind it. Every no you've received has moved you one step closer to the yes that will define your purpose. The pain of delay is simply the pressure of realignment. You're being turned toward the exact door that was built for your hands. It's easy to see the closed door and forget the corridor, but every hallway in heaven's architecture has more than one entry point. Just because one route shut doesn't mean the building collapsed. The designer still holds the master key. Think of a child reaching for a hot stove. A loving parent pulls their hand away. Even if the child cries, that's how God's protection feels, sometimes painful in the moment, precious in hindsight. So, instead of staring at what didn't open, turn your gaze toward the one who builds doors. Trust that He's preparing one that swings wide without struggle. And when that door opens, you'll walk through it carrying lessons forged in patience, humility, and discernment. You will no longer be the same person who once begged for what you thought you wanted. The waiting has changed you. The closed doors have educated your spirit. They have refined your instincts to recognize divine alignment. Someday soon, you'll realize that every rejection was redirection. Every denial, a form of deliverance. Heaven was not blocking you, it was building you. Let peace settle over you tonight. What is meant for you will open effortlessly, not because of your striving, but because the builder himself has turned the key. There are fires that destroy, and there are fires that refine. You have walked through both. The refining fire is not the enemy's work, it is heaven's tool. When God chooses to purify a chosen one, He doesn't use comfort. He uses fire. You've been wondering why the heat has been so intense. Why everything you built seems to be tested all at once. It's not punishment, it's purification. The flames that surrounded you were never meant to burn you down. They were meant to burn away what no longer belongs to your destiny. There was a man named Jalen. Everything he touched once turned to success until the season shifted. Suddenly, his plans failed. His friends disappeared, and his prayers felt unanswered. He thought he was losing everything. But years later, standing in strength he didn't know he possessed, he realized the fire hadn't taken anything essential, it had revealed it. The gold was inside him all along. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people. And they will say, the Lord is our God. End quote. That verse is not just poetic, it's personal. God calls you my people, not when everything shines, but when you are in the furnace, trusting His hands. He's not standing far away from the flames, He's right in them with you, ensuring they do not consume you. Think of gold in the crucible. It is heated until impurities rise to the surface, and then the refiner carefully skims them away. The gold doesn't resist it, yields. The fire doesn't destroy it, reveals purity. And the refiner doesn't walk away, he watches closely, because the temperature must be precise. The same is true for your life. God never lets the fire burn longer than necessary. He watches until He can see His reflection in you. You might ask, why me? Why this? Because those marked by heaven carry a higher standard. Your endurance isn't ordinary. It's prophetic. You've been trusted with transformation that will one day inspire others. The pain you've survived will become the wisdom someone else needs to keep going. Sometimes the fire appears as betrayal, a friend's silence, a door's closure, a season of loss. Sometimes it comes as failure, stripping away pride, false strength, or illusions of control. But in every case, the purpose remains the same: to make you radiant, authentic, light-bearing. Picture a blacksmith forging a sword. He heats the metal, hammers it, cools it, then repeats the cycle. Each strike gives the blade shape. Each heating gives it resilience. If the metal could speak, it would cry, enough. But the smith knows the process isn't cruelty, it's creation. The sword must endure the fire to carry its purpose. You, too, are being forged into something that will not bend in battle. The refining fire doesn't just change what you can do, it changes who you are. It softens arrogance, deepens compassion, and strengthens gratitude. It turns why me into Thank you for trusting me with this test. That shift marks maturity. Your tears are not wasted. They're part of the refining water that cools the edges after the heat. Heaven collects every drop. For they testify that your faith did not fail when it could have. Do you remember the three in the furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? They stood in flames 7 times hotter than normal. Yet they emerged unsinged. The fire that was meant to destroy them became their stage of deliverance. That's the pattern of divine refinement. You go in bound. You come out free. When the heat feels unbearable, remember this: purification always precedes promotion. God cannot place new glory on old residue. The fire is heaven's cleaning room, where your purpose is polished until it gleams with clarity. What you are enduring now is not chaos, it's calibration. You're being tuned to heaven's frequency. The anger is softening into understanding. The pain is being pressed into power. Every spark you've walked through is working together for a story of strength that will outshine the ashes. And when the fire finally fades, you won't come out empty-handed. You'll emerge carrying the lessons, the wisdom, the glow of one who has seen God's faithfulness up close. People will see something different in your eyes, a calm light that only survivors of the furnace possess. You'll look back and realize the fire didn't come to destroy you. It came to define you. And in its heat, heaven whispered your true name, refined. You've been misunderstood your entire life, haven't you? People saw your difference as strangeness, your depth as distance. They couldn't name it. But heaven, did you carry kingdom DNA? You were not made to blend in, you were made to break patterns. From your earliest memories, there was a quiet awareness inside you that you saw what others missed, felt what others ignored, sensed storms before they arrived. That sensitivity was never weakness. It was spiritual technology, fine-tuned by heaven for discernment and protection. There was once a boy named Ezra. He never fit in. While others chased crowds, he felt drawn to silence. He often wondered why his heart broke so easily, why his dreams seemed prophetic, why rejection followed him like a shadow. Years later, he realized his isolation had been instruction. God had hidden him, not to punish him, but to protect his purity. The boy who once questioned his worth became the man who carried wisdom that nations sought. That is your story too. You were set apart, not pushed aside. The divine fingerprint on your soul cannot be erased by misunderstanding or mockery. You carry heaven's blueprint, and the world reacts to it, even when it doesn't understand it. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 12, what we have received is not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may understand what God has freely given us. That Spirit is within you now. The same power that raised Christ from the dead flows through your veins. You were designed to discern, to see through deception, to walk with purpose that doesn't need validation. Think of an eagle flying high above a storm. The winds that frighten smaller birds are the very winds that lift it higher. Your sensitivity, your difference, your uniqueness, they are your wings. The storm doesn't destroy you, it elevates you. Maybe you've asked, why do I feel everything so deeply? Because you were never meant to live numb. The world needs hearts like yours awake, aware, and anchored in truth. That empathy that once exhausted you will become the very tool God uses to heal others. Your kingdom DNA carries compassion that breaks chains. It carries authority that confuses darkness. You walk into rooms and the atmosphere shifts not because of what you say, but because of what you carry. Sometimes that power feels heavy. The more light you hold, the more resistance you face. But remember this, the battle around you is proof of the treasure within you. You were not designed for ordinary warfare. Your spirit has been trained for divine conflict. Every tear, every attack, every season of solitude has been a part of your spiritual military training. You've been learning to wield prayer like a sword, peace like a shield, love like a weapon that disarms darkness. You don't need to prove who you are. Light doesn't argue with darkness, it simply shines. And the darkness flees. Walk in that knowing. Let your gentleness remain your strength, and your silence become your statement. The next time someone misunderstands you, don't defend yourself, discern the lesson. Sometimes rejection is God saying, "You don't belong to that frequency anymore." Unquote. Your uniqueness is your assignment. Heaven didn't make a copy. When it made you, it made a solution. You are not just part of the kingdom. You are an extension of it. Pause for a moment. Feel that quiet confidence rise in your chest. You're not an accident. You're a carrier of divine codes, love, endurance, truth, and faith. The world tries to decode you because it doesn't have your manual. Only heaven does. So hold your head high. Chosen one. You walk with the same spirit that hovered over creation. You are not ordinary. You are ordained. Now, as a sign of agreement, type in the comments, "Heaven knows me." 3 words, but they hold the weight of your identity. When you write them, you're declaring, "I no longer apologize for being chosen. I accept who I am." Every syllable becomes a seal. Every letter, a statement that you will stop shrinking to fit small spaces. Heaven knows you. Heaven named you. And the world will soon recognize what heaven has always seen. You are a carrier of kingdom DNA, marked, molded, and made for moments like this. You were never misplaced. You were positioned. Every detour was divine direction. Every silence, a signpost pointing you closer to the blueprint heaven hid inside you. Because chosen ones don't chase belonging, they become belonging. Your identity is the compass guiding others home to truth, to purpose, to the same light that shaped you. Restoration doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives like dawn, soft, steady, unstoppable. You may not feel the full warmth yet, but light is spreading through every shadow that tried to linger in your story. The restoration you prayed for has already begun. Everything the enemy took: peace, clarity, relationships, confidence. Heaven is restoring in layers, not all at once, but perfectly timed. Like spring after a long winter, you've wept, you've waited, and now you're walking into the return season. There was once a woman named Amira who lost nearly everything: her home, her sense of purpose, even her laughter. For months she thought restoration meant getting back what she'd lost. But as she healed, she learned that God's restoration never brings back what's gone, it brings back better. One day, she realized she no longer wanted the old. She wanted what heaven had rebuilt. And when she finally saw it, her spirit whispered, "This is redemption wearing new skin." Alme, That's what's happening for you right now. Restoration isn't coming from behind, it's coming from ahead. What's gone isn't being replaced, it's being reborn. We find in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. The verse doesn't promise replacement, it promises redemption of time. Even the wasted years are being rewritten, the lost laughter, the broken trust, the missed moments. God is folding them back into your future, but brighter, stronger, deeper. Restoration isn't a single miracle, it's a rhythm. Like the tide, it comes in waves. The first wave brings peace. The second wave brings opportunity. The third wave brings overflow. You are already standing in that tide. Can you feel it touching your feet? Sometimes restoration begins quietly, in ordinary moments, a smile that returns after grief, a door that opens without struggle, a sudden sense of calm that replaces confusion. Those are the first fruits of divine repair. But let's pause for a moment here. If this message stirs something inside you, if you can feel that tide of hope rising again, take a gentle action of gratitude. Click like, not as a reflex, but as a ripple. It's your way of saying, yes, I feel the dawn. And share this message if it resonates. Like a lighthouse, sending light to another ship lost at sea. You never know whose midnight this message might brighten. And as you keep journeying with these words, subscribe to stay close to this flow of faith, so that when heaven speaks again, you'll be among the first to hear the echo. And if your heart feels a quiet nudge, donate, not out of pressure, but as a sacred exchange. Think of it like planting a seed in soil that has already nourished you. You're not paying for light, you're passing it on. You're helping this sanctuary reach those still walking through their night. Your donation is a candle, not a coin. It keeps the flame burning. It builds more altars of hope. It keeps this house of light glowing for others to find. If you can't give now, give prayer, attention, presence. Every form of giving carries its own fragrance before heaven. Gratitude, when sincere, is the most valuable offering of all, because restoration is not just happening to you, it's happening through you. When you support light, you become light. When you give encouragement, heaven multiplies it back into your own story. Think of it this way: a cracked vase still holds water. The cracks let the light shine through. That's you, chosen one, light leaking through the places that once broke. And through that beauty, others will drink hope again. You are proof that loss is not the end, it's the beginning of becoming whole in a new way. You are the living evidence of restoration's rhythm. So breathe. The tide is rising. The sound of repair is already echoing around your life. And though you can't see every detail, you can trust the builder's hands. The same God who watched over the ruins is now rebuilding the cathedral of your destiny. One brick at a time, one prayer at a time, one yes at a time. Everything that fell apart is finding its way back together, but not as it was always meant to be. Like, share, subscribe, or give if you feel led. Do it not for me, but for the message that keeps finding hearts ready to rise again. Let your small act be a whisper to heaven. I believe in new beginnings. Because restoration isn't just coming, it's here, softly knocking, waiting for you to open the door. Have you ever noticed how time itself begins to change when heaven moves? One moment you wait for years with nothing shifting, and then suddenly, everything happens at once. That's divine acceleration, the moment when heaven says, "Now," end of point. It's as if all the prayers you've ever prayed gather in one place, waiting for a signal. Then, when the season turns, they are released like arrows, each one hitting its appointed target. Acceleration isn't random. It's the reward of endurance. You've been walking through what felt like endless slow motion. Every plan seemed delayed, every door sealed. But that slowness was God's way of teaching precision, because when acceleration comes, precision matters more than speed. A slingshot pulls back before it releases. That tension, that pause, creates the power to launch. There was a young man named Eliam. He spent 10 years preparing for something that seemed to never come. Every opportunity felt half open, every path uncertain. Then, 1 year, everything changed within weeks. He moved cities, met his purpose partner, and stepped into the assignment that had eluded him for a decade. It was as if heaven had been holding back a flood until he could swim. That's how divine acceleration feels. It's not chaos, it's concentrated grace. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, still echo today, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That verse isn't about comfort, it's about motion. Even when you couldn't see it, everything was moving toward good. The delays, detours, heartbreaks, all were aligning behind the curtain, gathering momentum for this next unfolding. You are entering the season where slow becomes swift, but don't mistake speed for ease. Acceleration often comes with spiritual responsibility. You'll move faster because your foundation is now firm. God trusts you to handle blessings without breaking. Think of a river that has been dammed for years. The pressure builds quietly. Then one day, the barrier breaks, and the water rushes forward, unstoppable. It doesn't just fill the riverbed, it nourishes the dry land around it. That's what's about to happen in your life. The blessings won't just bless you, they'll spill into others connected to you. You may feel unprepared, but acceleration doesn't require perfection. It requires readiness. The difference: perfection is control, readiness is surrender. When your spirit says, "Yes, Lord," in your time, that's when the current begins to flow. There's an invisible alignment taking place right now. Heaven's timeline is converging with your earthly one. People you thought were gone will reappear at the right moment. Opportunities you once lost will circle back, but this time, you'll be ready. You won't chase, you'll choose. You won't beg, you'll bless. Acceleration doesn't cancel the past, it redeems it. Every wasted year becomes fuel for this moment. You'll accomplish in months what once took years. Not because you're trying harder, but because heaven's hand is on the wheel. But remember, acceleration also reveals character. When the pace quickens, your spirit must stay anchored. Success without grounding can turn speed into chaos. That's why God made you wait to build roots deep enough to handle the wind. Think of bamboo. It grows underground for years before it ever breaks the soil. But once it does, it can rise several feet in days. The hidden growth is what gives it strength. You are bamboo in God's garden, ready for sudden rise. You may feel the pressure right now, the subtle trembling of something about to shift. That's not anxiety, that's spiritual motion. The old shell of stillness is cracking. The rhythm of heaven is quickening. Soon, you'll see connections aligning, answers appearing, and confirmations flowing like rapid fire. When that happens, don't hesitate. Move with grace, not greed. Acceleration is not about running faster, it's about walking in rhythm with heaven's pace. When God says move, move gently, but confidently. The door you step through will not close behind you, it will expand before you. And when you look back, you'll see how the slow years were never wasted. They were the building blocks of the speed you're stepping into. They taught you how to walk before heaven taught you how to fly. You are entering a season where things that once took effort will unfold with ease. You'll feel it, the alignment, the flow, the divine current carrying you forward. This is not coincidence. This is the reward of those who refuse to give up. So steady yourself. Chosen one, the pace is about to change. Heaven has turned the page. And the words written here are moving faster than your fears. You've been noticing it lately, those quiet signs, those whispers that seem to arrive just when you're about to give up. Numbers repeating, phrases echoing in unexpected places, a peace that falls from nowhere. This is confirmation in the quiet. Heaven has been speaking softly because your spirit has finally learned to listen deeply. When the noise of the world fades, divine language grows louder. God's confirmation rarely arrives with fanfare. It comes as a stillness that settles over your soul. A knowing that doesn't need explanation. That's how you can tell it's Him. There's no pressure, no confusion, just clarity wrapped in calm. There was a woman named Selah. She had prayed for direction for years, constantly begging heaven for a sign. One day, she stopped pleading and simply sat in silence. As she breathed, she felt a deep assurance, not a voice, not an image, just peace. That same week, a stranger repeated the exact phrase she had whispered to God in secret. Tears filled her eyes. It was confirmation, quiet yet undeniable. That's how God works. He doesn't shout into chaos. He whispers into surrender, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 12, and after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire came a gentle whisper. No, the gentle whisper, that's where you'll find Him. The world demands lightning, heaven prefers light. You've been conditioned to expect miracles in motion, but many arrive in stillness. The confirmation you seek might not come from a prophet or a dream. It might come from a sentence in a song, a breeze that feels like a touch, or the sudden warmth in your chest when you think of what's next. That warmth, that's heaven's yes. Your heart is tuning itself to the frequency of faith. And once tuned, even the faintest whisper from heaven feels like thunder. Think of a lighthouse on a foggy shore. From far away, its light looks dim, easy to miss. But for the sailor who knows what to look for, it's everything. That's how divine confirmation works. It may not change the weather, but it guides you safely home. When you ask for signs, remember, heaven speaks fluent subtlety. God prefers trust over theatrics. So instead of asking, "Where is the sign?" start saying, "I'm ready to notice," because divine guidance has always been around you. You're just now clear enough to perceive it. You've probably dismissed miracles as coincidences before. That conversation that came at the perfect time, that delay that saved you from harm, that unexpected yes after months of no, all of it, confirmation in disguise. Heaven hides clues in plain sight for those who choose awareness over anxiety. Don't rush to interpret every small thing. Though, confirmation is not about decoding, it's about discerning. Not every voice deserves your attention. The true signs of heaven never bring fear, only peace. When your spirit grows quiet, heaven's handwriting becomes visible. It's written across your days, your dreams, even your detours. And every mark points toward one truth: you are not lost, you are led. You might be in a season where you don't know what's next, but heaven already sent the signal. It's that steady pull in your spirit toward something brighter, freer, truer. You've been sensing it for a reason. God is preparing to confirm everything you've carried in faith. Every seed of obedience, every silent yes, every tear sown in trust, it's all aligning. The signs are not random, they're rhythmic. So pause for a moment. Breathe. You are not waiting for confirmation, it's waiting for you to notice. The signs are already at your feet. Now, as a prophetic act of recognition, write in the comments 888, not as superstition, but as symbol. 8 is the number of new beginnings, and 3 8s, 888. Declare that heaven's cycle of completion and renewal is active in your life. When you type it, you're not summoning luck, you're acknowledging alignment. You're saying, I see the signs. I choose to walk in trust. No, let this act be your agreement with heaven's whisper. Your quiet yes in digital form. A seed of faith that says, I'm listening. Lord, no. And from this day on, pay attention not to noise, but to nudges. The text that arrives right when you pray. The verse that repeats, the peace that won't leave. These are heaven's ways of saying, keep going. I'm still here. No, the confirmation is everywhere now, soft, sacred, surrounding. You are no longer walking blind. The light you've been seeking is already walking with you. Pieces. That's what your life has felt like, hasn't it? Scattered moments, broken seasons, half-finished dreams, disconnected chapters that never seemed to belong together. You've looked back and wondered if any of it had meaning, if maybe you missed the path entirely. But here's the truth: nothing was random. Every fragment has been waiting for this hour, the gathering of promises. God never wastes a single piece of your story. What looked like failure was framework. What felt like loss was layering. Heaven has been arranging the puzzle in secret, letting the colors mature before revealing the full picture. There was a man named Oren. His life felt like shattered glass, years of betrayal, loss, and disappointment. He couldn't see how any of it could lead to purpose. But one night, he began to make art out of the broken shards he had collected. Each jagged piece caught the light differently, reflecting a mosaic of colors that no perfect surface could ever hold. That's what God is doing with you, turning fragments into reflection, ruin into radiance. According to what is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. Oh, This is the exchange you are stepping into now, the divine trade of ashes for beauty. God is not gluing your old life back together. He's creating something new from the brokenness. Something stronger, something more luminous. Think of a weaver sitting at a loom. From up close, the pattern looks chaotic, threads tangled, colors clashing. But from heaven's view, it's symmetry. Each thread represents a season of your life, the bright ones of joy, the dark ones of pain, the golden ones of revelation. Together, they form the tapestry of purpose that heaven saw from the beginning. You have carried promises that seemed dormant, dreams that went to sleep under the weight of disappointment. But even seeds that fall into the ground must break before they bloom. Those broken promises weren't the end, they were the planting. And now, heaven is calling the fragments home. The scattered threads are finding their place again. People you thought were gone forever will reappear. Not to reopen wounds, but to fulfill what was once left incomplete. Ideas that you buried in frustration will resurface with new clarity. Gifts you abandoned will awaken with strength. The gathering of promises isn't always loud. Sometimes it happens gently, like a tide that pulls scattered shells back to shore. At first, you won't even realize it's happening. You'll simply notice that what once hurt no longer bleeds. What once confused now makes sense. What once felt wasted now carries wisdom. God specializes in full circle moments. Those conversations you never got to finish. Those chances that felt stolen, they are circling back. But this time, the outcome will be redemptive, not repetitive. You won't relive the pain, you'll redeem the purpose. Every season you survived carried a fragment of prophecy, and now they're converging. The patience you learned in waiting, the faith you built in silence, the endurance you gained through trial, they're all parts of the same promise. Heaven is weaving them together into a story that will make others believe again. Imagine standing in a gallery, looking at a painting that once looked abstract, but now reveals its image in full. That's your life. Right now, the outlines are connecting. The seemingly random strokes were deliberate all along. Some people will look at your comeback and call it luck. You'll know it was legacy. You didn't just endure the breaking, you preserved the pieces. You didn't lose faith when you lost clarity. And that's why everything is aligning now. Even the detours had direction. Even the delays had design. You were never outside of God's plan, just inside a chapter that hadn't yet shown its reason. Take a deep breath. The air around you feels lighter because heaven is gathering what once scattered. The conversations, the opportunities, the emotions all being rewritten into something coherent, something eternal. This is the divine reassembly. You are stepping into wholeness, not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you've learned to see purpose, even in imperfection. You no longer curse the fragments, you celebrate them. And soon, the world will too. They will look at your life and see the hands of a God who specializes in restoration through fragments. They'll see how every piece, every pain, every pause had a place. Your story is no longer scattered, it's symphonic. The notes that once clashed are now forming harmony. The broken glass has become stained glass, shining with a light that can only come from grace. The gathering of promises has begun, and this time, nothing will be missing. There's a crown being forged in the unseen, a crown not made of gold, but of endurance. You've carried pain that others never saw, fought battles that left no visible wounds, and still you rise. Every tear, every trial, every moment you could have given up, but didn't it has all been shaping your crown of endurance? There was once a woman named Myra. She was never the loudest believer, never the most noticed, but she was steady, through loss, through long nights, through betrayal. She kept showing up. People thought she was fragile because she cried often, but what they didn't see was that her tears were liquid strength. When the storm finally passed, and others were weary, she stood tall, quietly radiant. The crown she wore was invisible to the world, but unmistakable to heaven. That is the kind of strength you are walking in now, the strength born not from power, but from perseverance. The Spirit spoke through the Apostle James. Chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him. This crown isn't something you wait to wear in eternity. It begins forming here. In every moment, you choose faith over fear, love over bitterness, patience over despair. Heaven crafts it from unseen victories. The crown of endurance is heavy at first. It feels like responsibility, like resistance, like pain that refuses to leave. But over time, it begins to fit, and you realize the weight was always meant to strengthen your posture, not crush your spirit. Think of a tree standing in the middle of a storm. Its branches bend, its leaves scatter, but its roots die deeper. The wind that threatens to uproot it is the same wind that trains it to stand strong. That's what your trials have done for you. They've anchored you. Endurance doesn't mean you didn't cry. It means you cried and kept going. It means that when your hands trembled, you still held on to hope. That quiet, stubborn faith is what makes heaven call your name with reverence. You've walked through seasons where quitting seemed easier. You could have stopped believing, but something inside you wouldn't let go. That something is divine resilience, the mark of those heaven crowns. Each hardship was a chisel, each heartbreak a hammer. Every disappointment shaped your heart into something indestructible. Now, when storms return, you don't panic, you discern. You don't beg, you breathe. Because you've seen too much of God's faithfulness to doubt His plan now. There's a saying in the old texts that iron sharpens iron. You've been the blade in the forge, heated and hammered not to break, but to refine your edge. You are sharper now, wiser, calmer. Endurance has become your quiet anointing. Even your scars shine differently. They no longer speak of pain. They speak of passage, proof that you walked through fire and found peace on the other side. Each one glows like a jewel on the crown of your testimony. When heaven looks at you, it doesn't see exhaustion. It sees evidence. Evidence of faith that held steady, of love that survived loss, of trust that matured in the dark. The angels know your name, not because of fame, but because of endurance. And now, this crown rests above your life. You might not feel it, but others can sense it. They see peace in your posture, light in your tone, authority in your calm. You've become a living sermon of perseverance. There will still be challenges, of course, but endurance has changed how you face them. You've learned that not every mountain must be moved. Some are meant to be climbed. Not every storm must be silenced. Some are meant to teach you how to dance in the rain. The crown you wear now is not fragile. It's forged from survival. It shines in every moment. You forgive when you could have hardened. In every day you choose gratitude over grief. And here's the most beautiful truth. Endurance doesn't only protect you, it inspires others. People will find courage simply by watching how you remain steady. They'll see that faith isn't loud, it's lasting. So hold your head high, not with pride, but with quiet gratitude. The pressure you've endured wasn't proof of abandonment, it was proof of anointing. Heaven crowns its strongest warriors in silence. Your crown isn't given in ceremony, it grows in secret. Every breath you take after pain, every smile after tears, every thank you whispered after disappointment adds another gem to its setting. Soon, you'll stand in a light that reveals it all. The crown you thought you never deserved will gleam upon your soul, and you'll understand it was being shaped the whole time. Overflow, that's the word. Heaven whispers over you now. Not survival, not just getting by, overflow. You have walked through deserts. You have known drought. But this next season will not resemble the last. The cup that once felt empty will now spill over. Blessings will begin to chase you down, not as rewards for perfection, but as evidence of endurance. The drought was never meant to last. It was meant to make you thirsty for what is real. Now, the rain is coming. There was a man named Thomas. He spent years sowing kindness in silence, giving even when he lacked, encouraging others while quietly battling his own storms. One day, everything he had poured out began to return opportunities. Friendships, peace. He didn't chase them, they found him. Heaven always remembers those who give from a pure heart. This is your season of overflow. But it won't come in chaos, it will come in calm. Not as a flood that destroys, but as a steady river that refreshes. The Book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5. Declares, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. This is what God is doing for you. While you rested, He prepared the table. While you wept, He filled the cup. The very places that once humiliated you will witness your redemption. Overflow isn't only about abundance, it's about alignment. When your spirit and heaven's purpose move in sync, blessings stop feeling like surprises, they start feeling like home. And now, as you walk into this flow of restoration, let gratitude be your response. If these words touch you, let your heart choose how to echo them. Click, like, not because it's requested, but as if you're lighting a lantern on a hill, a quiet signal that hope still lives here. Share this message if it feels like water for your soul. You never know whose heart is cracking with drought, waiting for someone to pour light into their dryness. Leave a comment, even a single word, as an offering of connection. Words are like seeds. Sometimes a sentence can grow into someone else's miracle. Subscribe if you want to stay where light gathers. Think of it as choosing a seat beside this river that flows with encouragement, so that whenever heaven pours again, you're close enough to feel the spray. And if your spirit stirs beyond listening, donate. But let it be sacred, never pressured. Give as if you're adding another stone to a well that never runs dry. Every drop, every gesture, becomes part of the current that carries comfort to others. Giving, in its truest form, isn't an obligation, it's overflow, finding somewhere to go. You've been poured into. And now your heart overflows, not because it must, but because it can. Picture it like this: a candle lighting another in the dark. Neither flame is diminished. Both glow brighter. That's what your generosity does. It multiplies light without losing warmth. If you cannot give in coin, give in presence. Stay. Listen. Breathe. Let this moment be your yes to peace. Your being here already adds beauty to the river. For this is what overflow truly means. It's not about excess. It's about expression. It's the soul saying, I've received enough to give again. The flow of heaven doesn't stop with you. It flows through you. You become the current. You become the miracle for someone else. So, let your actions today, whatever they are, be born from love, not duty. If you share, let it be because your spirit whispers, someone needs this. If you give, let it be because your soul says, I want to keep this light alive. And the overflow you step into now will not just change your life, it will ripple outward. Where once there was emptiness, there will be evidence. Where once there was lack, there will be laughter. And through it all, heaven will smile, not because you did something grand, but because you understood something sacred. Real abundance isn't kept, it's shared. The river of blessing is moving, steady and sure. Step into it. Let gratitude be your current. Let generosity be your response. Let peace be your reflection. Overflow is not coming. It's already here, quietly filling the spaces that once felt hollow. Your cup is rising. The table is ready. And grace is pouring endlessly. You are standing at the river's edge now, watching everything you once prayed for flow toward you. Not in haste, but in harmony, perfectly measured for your hands to hold. Take it gently. Let gratitude be your response, not noise. For every drop that reaches you carries heaven's fingerprint, proof that patience always ripens into overflow. Even as the breakthrough approaches, there remains one last test, not of action, but of rest. The final test of rest is not about doing more, it's about trusting deeper. God is asking you now, can you stop striving long enough to let the blessing arrive untouched? This is where many falter. After years of waiting, praying, building, it feels unnatural to pause. You've trained your soul to fight, to endure, to keep moving. But there comes a point when heaven says, put down the sword, the victory is already written. Oh, there was a man named Lucan. He had prayed for promotion for years. Finally, an opportunity appeared. But before it unfolded, everything went quiet. His instinct was to push harder, to prove himself. But something inside whispered, rest. Don't reach, receive. He obeyed, even when it felt foolish. 2 weeks later, the very job he had longed for came to him without a single application. He realized then that rest was not laziness, it was alignment. Rest is faith matured. It is the posture of one who no longer begs because they already believe. Heaven speaks clearly through the writings of Hebrews, chapter 4, verse 10. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his. Rest is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of trust. It's saying, God, I've done what I can. Now I'll step aside and watch. You finish what you started. El Pont. The hardest thing to do after a long season of striving is to stop. You fear that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. But here's the truth. You were never the one holding it together. God was. You were the vessel. He was the vessel. Maker. Think of a seed after it's planted. It doesn't strain to grow. It surrenders to the soil, allowing warmth, water, and time to do what they were created to do. Its stillness is not weakness, it's wisdom. The soil works in silence, and the seed becomes what it was always meant to be. That's rest. You've been the seed in God's ground, buried but not forgotten. And now, just before sprouting, comes the temptation to dig yourself up, to check the progress. Resist it. Growth happens beneath the surface, where only God can see. The final test of rest asks one question: do you trust God enough to stop controlling the outcome? You have fought, cried, endured, and persevered. Now, the test is to exhale, to sit in the peace you once prayed for and not sabotage it by fear. The blessing won't run away. It's rooted in divine timing. Imagine standing on the shore after a long voyage. You've weathered storms, patched sails, and finally see land. The waves are calm now. Your instinct might be to row harder, to reach the finish faster. But the wind that carried you this far will carry you the rest of the way. Put the oars down. Let the current complete what your strength began. Rest doesn't mean absence of purpose. It means partnership with divine flow. In rest, you hear clearly again. You sense direction without panic. You begin to see how everything fits. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped fighting it. It takes courage to rest. The world glorifies hustle, but heaven rewards stillness. Rest is the language of those who trust that they are already loved, already chosen, already carried. Think of Jesus asleep in the storm. The disciples panicked, but he slept not because the storm wasn't real, but because his peace was stronger. That's divine rest. Not denial, but dominion. Your heart might still tremble from past battles. The habit of survival runs deep. But this is not a battlefield anymore. It's a garden. You're allowed to breathe now. You're allowed to stop watching the horizon for danger and start noticing the flowers blooming around you. You don't need to prove your faith anymore. Your endurance has already testified. Now God wants to prove his faithfulness. Let him. Rest allows miracles to land. When your hands are open, heaven can finally place what it's been holding. You're not forfeiting progress by pausing, you're finishing the process. Soon, you'll see what happens when a heart truly trusts. Doors open without knocking. People appear without searching. Answers arrive without analysis. The still soul becomes a magnet for divine motion. So, stop running circles around promises already fulfilled. Sit down. Breathe. Let peace find you. You have passed every storm, every test of fire. Now pass this one, the test of rest. Because only those who can be still can truly receive. And now, the veil lifts. The air feels different, lighter, fuller, charged with quiet knowing. You've reached the moment every season before was leading toward, the unveiling of fulfillment. You can feel it, can't you? The shift, not in noise, but in knowing, the waiting, the stretching, the refining. It all prepared you for this calm recognition that what was once distant has finally arrived. You're no longer chasing, you're receiving. This isn't the end of a story. It's the revealing of one that has been unfolding beneath the surface all along. Heaven never rushes revelation. It waits until your heart is strong enough to hold what your prayers once feared. There was a man named Caleb who, for years, carried a vision no one believed in. Friends drifted, plans failed, and hope dimmed, but he kept walking. Then one day, without warning, the pieces aligned. What he once fought for began to flow toward him. He didn't need to strive anymore. He simply stepped into what had already been written. When people asked how it happened, he smiled and said, "I stopped fighting the promise and started living it." No, that's fulfillment. Not fireworks. Not fanfare peace. The kind of peace that comes when everything finally makes sense. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 16, verse 24, "Ask and you will receive, and your joy will be complete." No, that word complete is the essence of this moment. Completion isn't just having what you wanted, it's becoming who you were meant to be while waiting for it. Fulfillment doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means everything is purposeful. Even the scars now tell a story that glows instead of bleeds. The disappointments have transformed into directions. The delays have matured into discernment. Every wound once open is now a window through which light pours freely. Think of a sunrise cresting after the longest night. The world doesn't roar, it exhales. Shadows retreat quietly, and color returns to places that seemed forever gray. That's the unveiling, soft yet unstoppable. The light doesn't ask permission, it simply appears. You may still be tempted to minimize it, to tell yourself, "It's not really happening yet." But fulfillment often arrives wrapped in simplicity. The promise you've been expecting might not shout, it might whisper. Yet once you recognize it, everything inside, you will respond like a tuning fork, meeting its note. The unveiling is also recognition, seeing yourself clearly for the first time. You're not who you were when the journey began. The one who doubted has become the one who declares. The one who trembled has become the one who trusts. You've stepped from being the seeker of promises to being the carrier of them. Look at how far you've come. You once prayed for strength. Now you are strength. You once asked for light. Now you radiate it. Fulfillment doesn't just deliver results. It transforms identity. Imagine a sculptor brushing dust from a finished statue. Each tap reveals detail that was always there beneath the marble. That's what God is doing now, brushing away the remnants of striving to reveal the masterpiece called you. There's no striving left. Only surrender. No proving left. Only peace. What once felt uncertain now feels inevitable. Because you finally understand that destiny is less about chasing and more about allowing. You've walked through darkness without losing your light. You've waited in silence without losing your song. You've loved in loss without losing your heart. These are the marks of the fulfilled, the quiet warriors who learned that victory sometimes looks like stillness. Now the path ahead is open, not crowded with striving, but clear with simplicity. You'll walk it differently this time, lighter, slower, grateful, because you no longer need to hurry toward what already belongs to you. The unveiling of fulfillment is not about receiving what you deserve. It's about recognizing that grace was guiding you the entire way. Every delay, every detour, every ache was choreography. The timing you once feared was actually perfect rhythm. You will look back on this journey and smile, not because it was easy, but because it was holy. because it sculpted patience, sharpened faith, and proved that hope never truly dies. It just changes shape until you're ready to see it again. You are standing in answered prayer. Not every detail will appear at once, but the peace you feel is proof that heaven's work is done, and from here on, fulfillment will no longer be something you wait for. It will be the way you live. You have crossed the threshold, no longer waiting, but walking in wholeness. Every promise now breathes around you, gentle and sure. Heaven has finished its work, and peace is the proof. You've reached the end of this journey, but not the end of your awakening. The words you've heard were never just a story. They were a mirror, reflecting what heaven already placed within you. You've walked through waiting, through testing, through refining, and now you stand in fulfillment, radiant and ready. Take a breath. Let it sink in. You are no longer who you were when you began reading. Something inside has settled. Something eternal has stirred. This is what peace feels like, not the absence of struggle, but the certainty that everything is finally aligned. And now, as this message fades, let gratitude rise. If it touched you, let your heart respond naturally. Click like as a quiet amen, a small flame that says, I receive this. Share it, not out of duty, but as an act of compassion. Somewhere, someone is standing on the edge of surrender, and your simple share could be the hand that steadies them. Leave a comment below, even one sentence, a thought, a reflection, a whisper. Words carry weight, and what you release in truth becomes light for another weary traveler. If this space has become a place of peace for you, subscribe, not as a follower, but as a friend who chooses to stay close to light. Let this be the corner of the digital world where you return when you need to remember who you are. And if your spirit feels moved, donate, not as payment, but as participation. Think of it as pouring water into a well that has refreshed your soul. Each drop keeps the stream flowing for those who will come thirsty after you. Your support, in any form, keeps this table open for hearts in need. Together, we make sure the flame keeps burning. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Give only if it comes from joy. Let it be an act of gratitude, not obligation, because gratitude is the purest form of worship. You've finished the message, but the journey of faith never ends. Walk forward softly, carrying this truth. Everything you want is coming, and heaven is already ahead of you, preparing the way.